We have to emerge from the apostasy. And God is inviting us to do so. How? Through the restoration. That's the fourth point for this week. Study section 1, looking for evidence of what the restoration is meant to accomplish. You'll see it everywhere. The one I want to start with is verse 17. I love this verse. Wherefore, and again, wherefore is a weird way to start a sentence. Wherefore suggests, oh, wait, you've been telling me something, and as a result of that, or consequently, now you're going to tell me something else. Okay? What had he just spoken about in verse 15 and 16? Apostasy. How does he start 17? Wherefore, in light of all I've just warned you about with the apostasy, wherefore I, the Lord, knowing the calamity which should come upon the inhabitants of the earth. Yeah, calamity, catastrophe, Armageddon, end of the world. Prepare ye for what's coming. The Lord is nigh. A voice of warning that shall be to all people. What is he warning us about? The calamity that comes when we leave the living God. The catastrophe of broken covenant. And if we simply know the calamity that is waiting for us if we don't choose to change, no wonder God wherefores with the restoration. Apostasy, wherefore restoration. So wherefore, knowing the calamity which had come upon the inhabitants of the earth, I called upon my servant Joseph Smith Jr. Right? I'm still the one behind here. But it's just like it's my disciples with my authority. This is now my servant Joseph Smith Jr. And what did I do when I called him? I spake unto him from heaven and gave him commandments, namely a whole book of commandments meant to bless you, meant to guide you, meant to prepare you for that which is to come, namely the second coming of Jesus Christ himself. What a calamity it would be to be unprepared for the second coming of Jesus. Whether that's individually or collectively on every isle of the sea, the Lord is trying to wake us up and prepare us so that it is not a dreadful day of the Lord. There's no calamity. Rather, it's rejoicing. It's a great day because we're ready for it. If you notice, by the way, what he says in the aftermath of that, what will come as a result of these commandments that God has revealed to Joseph Smith? What's the Doctrine and Covenants meant to accomplish by way of preparing us? Notice verse 19. The weak things of the world shall come forth and break down the mighty and strong ones. We just celebrated Christmas. There's Mary's Magnificat all over again. These role reversals where the lofty will be brought down because the lowly will be lifted up. He's done great things for us, and the restoration will do that. The mighty and strong are the ones that have succumbed to self-idolatry, what he described in that passage about the apostasy. We're going after the images of our own gods, and no good thing will come of that. So break down the mighty and strong. Crack those idols. Here's some iconoclasm taking place from God's point. And if those can be brought low by the weak things of the world, those that trust not in themselves and the arm of flesh, but in God's authority and God's disciples and God's preface to God's book of commandments and God's servant Joseph Smith and everything else that God is using to work this restoration. It's amazing what's happening here. Weak things. Oh, thank heavens I qualify. Or verse 20, what's another purpose of the restoration? That every man might speak in the name of God. I told you that God was pretty strong about authority, right? My authority and the authority of my servants. He wants us all to possess that authority, though. The authority to speak in the name of God. That he wants all of his sons and all of his daughters to be able to possess as we do his work in the world. I've said this before. The restored gospel of Jesus Christ is this incredible combination of the best of Catholicism and the best of Protestantism. It's a proving of contraries within the Christian community. As I said to a Catholic and a Protestant friend in divinity school, if the two of you got married and had a baby, it would be me. Well, Priesthood authority is a very Catholic, that's the Catholic side of the family. Catholicism feels very strongly about the need for authority. And they claim it from a passage of popes, from St. Peter all the way down to Pope Francis I. We don't agree with an unbroken chain there, but we do agree with the absolute need for a chain of authority that links us back to the Lord. This part here about speaking in the name of God in an authorized way, thank you, Catholicism, for helping us understand that importance. But the other part, that every man might have that authority, thank you, Protestantism, for that. It was Martin Luther that dreamed of a priesthood of all believers. Well, combine that openness of Protestantism with the authority of Catholicism. And what do you have? In the restored gospel of Jesus Christ, the power and authority to speak in the name of God being given to all of his sons and daughters. Perform his saving work for one another. We're in this thing together. So that's part of the purpose of the restoration. Notice what he says in 21. This is one of my absolute favorites. Another reason for the restoration, that faith also might increase in the earth. Personally, I consider that a direct response to the Lord's own question in Luke chapter 18, verse 8. So to me, it's the most haunting question Jesus ever asks. That when the Son of Man shall return, will he find faith upon the earth? That's his question. When I come back, will anyone care? Will anyone be ready? Will anyone have lamps still burning bright? Will there be faith on the earth? Well, if the ordinances, if we've strayed from the ordinances, if the everlasting covenant has been broken, then what chance is there for real saving faith on earth? Well, through the restoration, there will be. Through the restoration is the Lord's own attempt to make sure that the answer to Luke 18:8 is yes. Yes, there will be faith on the earth because people will be able to enter into true covenant relationship with Christ. Participate in true saving ordinances from an authority that comes from heaven itself. It's incredible what the Lord is doing here through his servant Joseph. Yes, there will be faith when Christ comes. The restoration will see to that. Another purpose is in verse 22. Why the restoration? That mine everlasting covenant might be established. Yes, the very one that had been broken. That's why it's new in this final dispensation. The everlasting covenant has been renewed for us. Lastly, verse 23. Why else the restoration? That the fullness of my gospel might be proclaimed by the weak and the simple unto the ends of the world and before kings and rulers. There's more of that Magnificat I mentioned. Another role reversal. Kings, rulers, listening to the weak and the simple? Yeah, because it's the weak and simple that are most likely to listen to the Lord first. Less self-idolatry getting in their way. Less flesh on their arm to put their trust in. So who do they trust instead? The Lord. They have faith in him. They trust his authority. They are able to exercise that authority themselves. And with it, they are ready to be messengers to the world, from low to high and everything in between.